Bom dia, pessoal. Bom dia não, boa noite, né? Já estamos aí 8 horas da noite e nós vamos estar começando aí mais uma live, sempre trazendo uma celebridade, uma referência nova aqui sobre o nosso hobby, o aquarismo marinho, para vocês. Esse nosso jogo de entrevistas são com personalidades nacionais e internacionais, sejam elas americanas, alemães, chinesas ou brasileiras, né? Nas últimas edições, nós tivemos aí grandes nomes, como o pessoal da MaxPact, representado por Howard Roy, um dos sócios da empresa. Tivemos o Mark Callahan, o Melev. Nós tivemos, no último sábado, o Matt Pedersen, que também é uma grande referência para mim, aí, o editor sênior da Coral Magazine. Semana que vem, na terça-feira, nós vamos estar recebendo uma grande lenda, o senhor Martin Moe. Martin Moe foi o primeiro a estar criando a Peixes Palhaço, em 1969, um dos primeiros, né? E é uma grande referência para mim. Eu tenho 2 publicações dele aqui comigo, que eu vou estar compartilhando com vocês, que é este diário aqui do Breeding the Orchid Dotterback e também o Aquarium Handbook, que foram as primeiras publicações aí que eu comprei, e ele vai estar conosco aí na terça-feira. E hoje nós vamos estar recebendo a grande lenda aí, talvez um dos autores que nós mais conhecemos aí com inúmeras publicações, o senhor Julian Sprung. Como sempre, as conversas vão estar sendo em português e inglês. Então, nesse tempo aí que eu faço a tradução, vou pedir para vocês irem compartilhando o link aí para nós termos o máximo de pessoas aqui para prestigiar essa grande personalidade aí do nosso hobby. So, guys, thank you very much for being online. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do so. Today we have another chapter from this video series, which I talk with Brazilian celebrities, let's say not celebrities, let's say people important for the hobby, for the marine aquarium hobby, being then Brazilian, Chinese, German, or American. And last week we just had Matt Pedersen, which is the senior editor from Coral Magazine. We already have Malev, Mark Callahan, besides the main importers from Brazilian products here in Brazil. And and also Ivan Nogueira, who is one of the owners from Piscicultura Tanganica, which is a world reference in marine fishing and some corals. And next week, we're going to have Martin Moe. Martin is the first guy, let's say one of the first guys to raise the clownfish in 69, and he's doing a wonderful job with the diadema, I forgot that. Sea urchin. Thank you, Julian. Sea urchin. And today we have the legend, Mr. Julian Sprung, here with us, which is, I must say, Julian, it's a big pleasure to be talking with you, and welcome, man, and thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much, Edo. Yeah, my pleasure. So, it's exciting what you're doing with all of these people and being able to share this information with an audience there in Brazil. All of these people are my friends as well, and I'm glad to be able to participate with you. Thank you.
O Julian agradece muito, fica muito feliz em estar participando conosco, e todas as pessoas que eu citei, falei, sou amigo dele. Então, ele acha muito interessante esse trabalho que a gente está fazendo, e vamos lá. Essa conversa com o Julian, ela vai ter... Nós vamos abordar um pouco da história, da trajetória do Julian como aquarista. Nós vamos dar um foco maior na empresa dele, na Two Little Fishes. Como ela surgiu, como ela aconteceu. Vamos falar um pouco também do sócio do Julian, que nós nunca conversamos a respeito, e depois nós vamos abordar os produtos aí do Julian, né? Com um foco bem grande no Acropower. O Acropower foi muito bem recomendado pelo Jake Adams, e isso aí gerou muita curiosidade. Estava comentando com o Julian, inclusive, que vários dos amigos aí que são inscritos no canal aí me mandaram fotos com um vidrinho aí que tinham comprado a Acropower depois da conversa do Jake. Então, vamos matar essas curiosidades. So, Julian, We are going to go through your trajectory, your life trajectory a little bit, show us how you got into the hobby. This has been already talked in the aquarium conference that we had last year. Yeah. But we're going to go through that, and also the history from Two Little Fishes, a topic that we haven't been talking before. And besides that, we are going to give a big focus on Acropower, which has been greatly recommended by Jake Adams. He just shot the jugs that he had over there that he drops every day, and he made extra clear that he is not making any type of merchandising. He just loves the products and he wants to share with us. And many friends, many subscribers to this channel just send me photos showing that they have just bought it, and we are looking forward to hear from you the benefits and what the products do and don't. As entrevistas, elas vão ser conduzidas em português e inglês. Eu vou estar falando elas primeiro em português e depois nós vamos puxar para o inglês. O Julian vai estar respondendo, assim, para que audiências de todo o resto aí do local estejam escutando, né? Muito obrigado a todos os presentes aí, o Gustavo sempre junto com nós, o Luiz, que é um grande amigo e sempre nos ajudando, Leandro Vasconcelos, Ana Bicas, James, meu amigão, meu parceiro aí, que está sempre indo comigo aí, me ajudando aqui no aquário, e vários outros. Vamos começar então. Julian, nos conta, como que tu começou no hobby, como foram os teus primeiros aquários, quais foram os teus primeiros corais. So, Julian, share with us, how have you started in the marine horror hobby? Which are the things that you firstly did? If you have photos to share with us, please do so. We didn't talk it with it before. But
I have that, the lecture that I gave, there are photos from that, but how could I share that with you live now?
Do you have the photos over there?
Probably. Let me see.
Okay, you can open the photos.
You should have told me. I didn't know. Let's see. Lectures.
A gente começou conversando lá sobre outras coisas e eu acabei esquecendo de dizer para o Julian que a gente podia passar fotos. I'm sorry, Julian, we just started talking about other things, about other mundane things, and we got distracted.
Just a minute. I might have taken it off of this machine. Let me see.
Eu e o Julian, a gente estava conversando aqui antes de entrar, que tentaram entrar na minha casa quarta-feira, arrombaram o meu portão. E isso aconteceu com o Julian umas 2 semanas atrás também, então a gente começou a entrar nessa conversa aí que acabou tomando um pouquinho de tempo. A gente...
I've got a couple of photos here, but the lecture itself is not here. I have a way to get it, though.
Okay.
If it's worth it. It's on a backup drive that I could connect to the computer. It would take me a moment. I could answer a question, and while you're translating, I could get up.
We can do that.
Yeah. How did I get into the hobby?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I grew up on Miami Beach on a residential island on Biscayne Bay. And I'm the youngest of 4 boys. And one of my older brothers took me to see his aquariums because he didn't have the aquariums in our house. He had them in a neighbor's house. This was because my father didn't want the salt water in the house because he said it would corrode everything.
O Julian, ele cresceu numa ilha residencial de Miami, tá? E ele é o mais novo de 4 irmãos. E ele foi introduzido no hobby quando o irmão mais velho dele levou ele para conhecer os aquários que estavam na casa de um vizinho, porque o pai deles não deixava eles terem aquário em casa, porque o pai dele dizia que a água salgada ia corroer as coisas dentro da casa.
Yeah. So I was 4 years old,
Uhum.
and my brother would have been 13 at the time. So he had, I think it was 4 aquariums in this house.
That was a
And
good neighbor.
yeah, well, it also was really nice because they were beautiful aquariums. And I was fascinated with it. And so then my brother invited me to collect with him, to go along the shore on the island where we lived to catch fish and invertebrates and things. So that's how I got started. And after collecting things with him, I started doing it on my own. Even at 5 years old, I went off by myself catching fish and all. It's a different time.
Então o Julian com 4 anos, isso aconteceu, ele pegou e levou ele lá, né? E ele levou o irmão dele levou ele, o irmão dele tinha 13 anos, o Julian 4, e levou ele na casa desse vizinho onde estavam os aquários lá. Ele tinha 4 aquários na casa do vizinho. Eu comentei com ele, inclusive, que é um vizinho muito bom, né? E os aquários eram muito lindos. E logo depois disso, com 5 anos, já o Julian começou a ir junto com o irmão dele a coletar os peixinhos, coletar as coisas do mar para colocar dentro do aquário. E assim, ele com 5 anos, começou a montar, a se envolver com o aquário marinho. Mas daí eles não deixavam tu ter o aquário na tua casa, né, Julian? Esse daí tu tinha ainda no vizinho também? But with 5 years old, you already got your own aquarium, your own fish tank over there?
No. When I was 5, I used to catch the fish.
Uh-huh.
And for example, sargassum fish, or I would collect shrimp from the sargassum weed, also small puffer fish, and I would keep them in buckets, not in an aquarium.
Oh.
There was you understand what a vacant lot means? That means a piece of land with no house on it.
Okay.
Vacant. Vacío, empty.
Yes,
no,
vacant.
And on the water.
Mm-hmm.
So I could collect the seawater in a bucket and put fish in it, put live rocks in it, and put it under a tree so that it would not get too hot. And I maintained, they weren't aquariums, but I maintained fish that way. I would come home from school and change the water, and then feed them. I catch some shrimps, put them in and feed them. And so I did that. Sometimes they didn't live, but sometimes they would persist for a while. That's how I started at a very, very young age.
O Julian, com essa idade de 5 anos, ele coletava puffers, né? Baiacus. E ele mantinha esses peixes em baldes, junto com rochas e coisas assim, em um terreno baldio que tinha lá por perto. E depois da escola ele sempre ia lá, levava camarão, largava camarão dentro para alimentar os peixes, e assim ele ia fazendo as coisas. Então, não eram aquários, mas ele mantinha peixe, alguns viviam, outros não por muito tempo, mas foi assim que ele começou. E essa ilha, Julian, tu me falou que era uma ilha, é muito longe de Miami? Pertence a Miami, mas como é que tu fazia para chegar lá? Era um barco? Era uma ponte? O que era? Julian, you mentioned to me that you live in a residential island, and
Yes.
it is Miami, but how you get there? There is
a bridge.
There's a bridge, okay.
Yeah, there's many residential islands on Miami Beach.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they're small, maybe some of them only 1 kilometer long, some of them 2 or 3 kilometers. And yeah, with a lot of houses.
You still live in Miami, right?
I still live on Miami Beach, yes.
Uhum. Então, essa sereia eram ilhas residenciais, aí existem várias, eu acredito que deve ser uma coisa assim, tipo Florianópolis aqui para nós, e muitas têm 1 quilômetro, 2 quilômetros de extensão. Então, ele continua vivendo em Miami.
Yeah. So how would I share the photos?
Do you see our screen? Okay, you open the photo, you see our screen, that one that it show us to, and then on the right middle, on the bottom middle, you see
Yes.
share screen button.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So,
open the photo and share screen.
Okay, so I can do that. Yeah. Let's see if I can't do play. If I press play, it'll do my whole screen. I can't do that.
When you go to the share screen, you can choose which program you would like to open.
Okay,
So,
share screen, screen sharing.
o Flávio está compartilhando aqui com nós Biscayne Island.
Well, Biscayne Bay.
Biscayne Bay.
Yeah, Bahia de Biscay. Select window or screen. Brazil lecture. Yeah, that'll do it. There it is.
Okay.
Allow. Okay.
I'm
You
seeing
see
it.
that? Yeah.
Edit.
Great. So, yeah, and pardon me as I'm learning. Okay, so now, that's me. I'm the baby.
Ok, o Julian é o bebezinho ali.
And my brother who's holding me, his name is Elliot, and he's the one who had the fish tanks and showed me.
So you have even an older brother than Elliot?
I had an older brother, Eric, and then another brother close in age to me, Brad. So there were 4 of us.
Eles eram 4, tem um que é o mais velho, que é o Eric, e o Elliot, que é o que está segurando o Julian, que eles têm a mesma idade, que é o que levou o Julian para conhecer os tanques. O Julian, se eu não me engano, ele tem 54. You are 54 now, right, Julian?
Correct.
O Julian tem 54 mesmo.
So now there you see me when I had hair. And
so Julian,
I was always interested in nature, as was Elliot. So here I'm holding a grasshopper.
Ele tá ali com um grilo na mão, e ele sempre foi interessado em natureza, né? Assim como o Elliot.
Yeah. So that's me and my brother Brad looking at an aquarium, the first aquarium we had in our house.
How you made your father allow it?
I didn't. My brother Elliot did. He convinced my father. So at this point, I would have been, I think, 6 years old. So my brother was 15.
Com 6 anos, o Elliot conseguiu convencer eles a terem um aquário dentro da casa. E esse daí foi o primeiro aquário que eles tiveram lá. Esse negócio aí, a gente pensa, né? Eu lembro lá do teu videogame estraga a televisão. Então era uma coisa parecida com isso. So I believe that's your own version, like video games use it to broke the TV and things like that. So the salt water would corrode the things in the house.
That's right. That's right. So you can see a small blue angelfish, holocanthus, there in the middle of the aquarium. If you look closely.
Tem um peixe anjo azul, um holocanthus ali no meio do aquário.
Yeah. So the next thing that happened when I was 6 years old, I fell into the water and I hit my face on a metal pipe on the bridge. This wasn't a good thing. I was watching an angelfish and was distracted and I slipped.
Com 6 anos, ele está comentando com nós que ele viu um peixe-anjo numa ponte, ele acabou caindo e ele bateu o rosto na ponte. Ele está com o rosto machucado.
Yeah. So here's me with my brother Elliot in 1973 in the Bahamas, the first time I went snorkeling in clear blue water.
Esse daí é em 1973, quando ele foi fez a primeira vez o snorkel. Esse é o Elliot, que está junto com ele. And Julian, Elliot o Elliot, ele continua envolvido com questões de peixes, já que ele gostava tanto, ele trabalha com isso também. Elliot is still involved with marine life and things like that, since he liked it so much?
He would be. Unfortunately, he passed away. Yeah, he got a cancer very suddenly about 10 years ago. And yeah, believe me, if he was still alive, he would have been very much involved in the hobby. Something you don't know, aside from the fact that he passed away, is he was involved in a number of well-known books. For example, the book Corals of the World by Charlie Veron. Elliot did the color corrections on the photos for that book. It was an enormous task, a huge job. He also did work on a book by Jerry Allen and Roger Steen and Jerry Allen, a book of angelfishes of the world. You may be familiar with it. Yeah, so he, just like me, was very much an aquarium person. He was more into the fish than the corals, but he also was very skilled with publishing, printing, and working on photographs. So together we knew a lot of people in the industry, and he did some work behind the scenes that most people don't realize.
O Elliot, infelizmente, ele teve câncer e há 10 anos atrás ele veio a falecer do câncer, né? E ele teve, sim, envolvido em muitas coisas do hobby, mas principalmente na questão de fotografia. Tem um guia que aqui para nós acho que é o mais conhecido, que são peixes anjos do mundo, Angelfish of the World. E ele fez todas as correções de cores nas fotos. E ele se envolvia muito mais com isso. Ele era uma pessoa que gostava muito mais de peixes do que de corais. E é uma pena. Sinto muito por ter...
Yeah, you didn't know. Yeah. Also, my books, The Reef Aquarium, Volume 1, 2, and 3, if you look at the cover of Volume 2 and Volume 3, that was work done in Photoshop by Elliot with me directing. I supplied the photos, I told him how I wanted it to look, and he made a composition. So Volume 2 and Volume 3, the cover is not actually a single photo, it's a composition, like a painting.
A composição das capas do volume 2 e 3 do livro do Julian foram feitos pelo Elliot. É ele que montou isso daí, dirigido por ele.
So anyway, I became scuba certified in 1982 and studied marine life, marine invertebrates in the University of Florida. I had a crazy hairdo back then.
Com 16 anos, o Julian ele teve a certificação de scuba dele e logo depois ele começou a estudar biologia marinha na Universidade da Flórida. E é ele ali com o cabelo. That hair is world famous, man. That's a trademark.
It was a trademark. My study was to be a zoologist, so I became a zoologist, Bachelor of Science degree, but I did not continue to become a PhD. I graduated and I had immediately a job working as a biologist for an aquarium company.
Então ele se formou e assim que ele teve o bacharelado dele, ele começou a trabalhar imediatamente para uma empresa de aquários.
Yeah, I wanted to work at the Smithsonian, which was more of an academic institution, but they had no jobs, no positions available for me.
The Smithsonian is the museum over there in New York, right?
No, it's in Washington, D.C.
It's in Washington, D.C. O Smithsonian é um museu lá que tem em Washington, D.C. Ele tinha a intenção de trabalhar lá, mas infelizmente não tinha nenhuma vaga quando ele tinha se formado.
Yes, but they helped me to find a position with a company that was in manufacturing aquarium products and distributing aquarium products. So it was good that I went to the Smithsonian because they launched me on my career in the aquarium industry.
Então, com isso, eles indicaram ele para uma empresa que fazia e revendia produtos de aquarismo. Então, foi esse um ponto positivo de que ele foi para lá.
Okay, so I think we go then to the next question, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
We have already mentioned about the aquariums. A gente já falou sobre os primeiros aquários dele, sobre a formação acadêmica, né?
Okay,
nós vamos agora para a questão dos livros, né? Quais foram as primeiras publicações, os artigos? Porque o Julian tem um monte de livro. Eu gostaria que ele trouxesse isso para nós, né? So, Julian, which were the first articles and books that you have written, and how the decision to contribute for the hobby growth took apart from you?
Okay. Before I answer, do I click stop screen to stop this sharing? Is that okay? There we go. Great. So the first articles that I wrote, I belonged to an aquarium society in Miami called the Florida Marine Aquarium Society. When I was in high school, I actually joined as a member with my family in 1973 when I was 7 years old.
O Julian ele faz parte de uma associação de aquário marinho. Isso desde quando ele tinha 7 anos que ele entrou junto com a família dele. Isso, Julian, eu queria que tu explicasse para nós como é que funciona essa questão de sociedades, né? A gente vê bastante a Masna, por exemplo. Tu me falou que tem uma associação local. O que é isso? Quais eventos eles promovem? Como funciona? Tu paga uma mensalidade para isso? O que é? Julian, this is something new for us. Explain to us how a marine aquarium society works over there in USA. I know that you guys have Masna, and then you have your local club from Florida. What you do? And
I didn't realize that you don't have that there. You should. Yeah. You really should. Okay, so marine aquarium societies in the USA have evolved over time, but the way it was, and to some extent still is, the way it was when I was 7 years old, you had a group of hobbyists who would meet once a month, the same day of the month. In the case of Florida Marine Aquarium Society, it was a Tuesday. Okay. It would be like, I think it was always the fourth Tuesday of the month at 7:30 at night. So after you have dinner, you go and you meet. And they would meet in the Museum of Science in Miami. And what would we do? Well, there would always be somebody who would give a lecture talking about whatever, whether it's about how to change water, how to keep certain fish, how to make your own food, whatever. And they had a newsletter. The newsletter would be published every month. Back then, there was no internet, so they would actually print a newsletter and mail it. Okay? So this is how we connect to your question. The first articles that I wrote were as the editor for that newsletter. I would write scientific articles for the newsletter.
And you guys paid a monthly fee for doing that, or
to be a member of the club, you pay annually, and it's a small amount of money.
And how many guys you use it together over there?
How many people?
Yeah.
Back then, it was probably in the neighborhood of 400 people. It was.
No way, man! Just in Florida, you would gather 400 people monthly.
No, there were 400 members, but a monthly meeting, there would be maybe 80 people.
That's a lot. Yeah.
It still happens. They still do it. Florida Marine Aquarium Society, it's not at the Museum of Science anymore. Now they have it usually at a high school in Fort Lauderdale. Sometimes they will do the meeting in Miami at the University of Miami, believe it or not. So it's still a successful club. It's probably the oldest saltwater aquarium club in the USA. It was founded by a guy named Robert Strawn. Now that name may not mean anything to you, but Robert Strawn was an aquarist and a marine life collector and an author. I'll send you an email and you could look him up. He wrote many books about saltwater aquariums. Really, really way ahead of his time.
Como é que funciona essa questão de grupos, de sociedades de aquarismo lá nos Estados Unidos, tá? O Julian ele entrou isso quando tinha 7 anos. Agora já está reduzindo bastante o número de eventos, mas ela funcionava basicamente assim. Tu pagava uma taxa anual, que era uma taxa quase que simbólica, e uma vez por mês as pessoas todas se reuniam, né, em um local para falar, para terem palestras geradas por eles, entre eles mesmos, sobre os mais diversos tópicos, né? E depois disso eles recebiam por correio uma ata lá onde traziam esses artigos daquilo que foi falado. E isso aconteceu e ainda acontece, apesar de um número reduzido. E foi assim que o Julian começou. O Julian começou como editor, né, e escrevendo também artigos para essas reuniões, para essas sociedades. A Associação Marinha lá da Flórida é talvez a mais antiga dos Estados Unidos, e a pessoa que fundou foi Robert Strong. A gente pode não conhecer ele, mas ele tem várias publicações e alguns livros também sobre os mais diversos temas do aquarismo marinho. Well, that was a big curiosity, because you also have MESNA, right? MESNA is all over USA, and then you have the event, that's MACNA, and you pay a yearly fee. It's about $200, right? $100.
Right, for membership. I don't remember. I do it with two little fishies. Normally, to be a member of MASNA, it's a Marine Aquarium Society. MASNA is Marine Aquarium Societies of North America. So the individual societies become members. But also businesses can have a membership with MASNA as well to support their work.
Então, essa é a situação da MASNA, né? A MASNA é a Associação Marinha da América do Norte. E as associações locais fazem parte dela, se associam a ela, não é para pessoas físicas, né? E as empresas também podem se associar. Eu estava falando com o Julian, eu acho que em torno de $100 a $200 para as associações fazerem parte, né? E aí eles promovem principalmente o evento mais famoso, que é o MACNA, que esse ano vai ser online e o Julian vai participar também, né? Vai ser um webinar, pelo que eu li, vão ser 3 dias de evento, e o bacana disso é que daí todos nós vamos poder assistir ao vivo, né, e participar também, quem está fora dos Estados Unidos. I was mentioning, Julian, that this year, since we have the COVID, it's going to be an online event that you yourself will also take part. And I was mentioning that it's going to be quite positive, because this way people from all over the world could take part, ourselves included. And it's going to be a 3-day event, right?
Yes. Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, it's normally a 3-day event, the MACNA. And I have not looked at what they are scheduling for the online, but I think it makes sense that it would be multiple days, yeah.
Então isso daí vai ser uma coisa bacana e a gente tá participando também.
It's interesting to see how COVID is modifying our behaviors for shows like this. Now the Florida Marine Aquarium Society, which we spoke about, they have been having their meetings by Zoom, logging in just like we're doing now, because it's not practical to come and meet in person. So this is an evolution of aquarium societies that's happening.
I think that's going to be quite good, you know, because this way we can save time on doing that. And this type of live streams that we are having, it's the knowledge gets stored. It's not going to get loose.
It's not
quite positive.
Yeah, people can check in after the fact. You lose the personal contact to some extent. It's nice to meet. Think about it too. The Florida Marine Aquarium Society, they also used to have an annual show where people would bring in aquariums and show them at the museum. It was fantastic. There would be a typical show would have maybe 100 aquariums, and
Nice.
Florida, the Miami area, the show would be like, I don't know, maybe a week long, or it was like from one weekend to the next. And they would get maybe 10,000 people would come through the local. It was a big deal.
Então, o Julian estava falando aqui, por causa do Covid, agora todas as associações ali, por exemplo, a da Flórida está tendo reuniões, as reuniões estão sendo via Zoom. E isso é muito bom. A gente estava comentando também dessas questões das lives, que o conhecimento fica guardado, não se perde. E a gente consegue consultar isso depois. Mas se perde um pouco da integração pessoal. O Julian estava relatando que, inclusive, existia um evento que durava uma semana, onde as pessoas montavam um aquário. Então, tinha em torno de 100 aquários que as pessoas levavam para montar. Provavelmente tinha algum prêmio que elas estavam competindo. E chegavam a ter mais de 10 mil pessoas de público para ir lá visitar. And I suppose there was for a prize, right? For being like the most, for electing the most beautiful tank or things like that.
There was a contest, and they would give away trophies, and it was a big deal. They stopped doing it maybe 10 years ago. You know the reason? What's that?
Do you know the reason why they have stopped it?
I think, in part, first of all, it's stressful on fish. To do something like that. But I think most of the time the hobbyists knew what they were doing and they did a good job. I'm not sure exactly why. It could be that they didn't have a good location anymore. The Museum of Science wasn't available for them to do it. And they tried it at a few other places and it didn't work. So I think then they stopped, and because they stopped, they didn't do it anymore. If they had a partner like the Museum of Science, I suppose it could be done. It was.
Infelizmente fazem 10 anos que não acontece mais o evento, porque o Julian acredita que foi porque eles perderam o local, né? Antes era no Museu de Ciências lá de Miami, e era um baita de um local. E agora eles não conseguiram mais, então isso deixou um pouquinho difícil esse evento.
So I'll tell you back to our questions. You asked about my first article. I mentioned I wrote for the Florida Marine Aquarium Society newsletter. And what happened when I was 15 years old, I had written an article about lateral line disease. You know the head and lateral line erosion?
Yes.
And what I had observed, I took a fish that had very bad head and lateral line disease, a Paracantherus hepatus. And I did something a little bit bad, but I did it. I put the fish in a live well, a bait bucket. You know what that is? It's
bait bucket, okay.
It's a bucket that you can close. It has holes in it, okay? And I put it in Biscayne Bay, tied to a dock, so it wouldn't float away. And I maintained the fish there, and I gave it seaweed to feed on, okay? So, and what happened within weeks, the lesions, the head and lateral line disease began to cure. And after a few months, the fish was perfect. So at that time, nobody knew that you could reverse head and lateral line disease. So I wrote about it. And
so you need to actually go inside the water and see the fish with snorkels or something like that?
No. The fish was in a bucket. So
you could see it clearly from both?
Yes, and I would I would take the bucket out of the water, open it up, put food in there, which was seaweed. The fish would eat it. He was comfortable. Then I close it and put him back. It was tied with a rope to a dock.
O Julian com 15 anos, ele escreveu um artigo sobre a doença da linha lateral, né, o HLLE. E nesse artigo ele fez um experimento. Ele tinha um hepatos que estava com esse problema gravíssimo, e ele pegou e colocou ele numa, como é que se chama em português? Aqueles locais que a gente coloca os peixes, geralmente uma gaiola de metal. Yes. No caso do Julian foi um balde plástico com os furos ali para ter, e ele jogou dentro do oceano, lá na baía dele, e amarrou na doca. E ele alimentava o peixe todos os dias com alga. E com isso, ninguém sabia naquela época que era possível de reverter essa doença. E o Julian fazendo isso, alimentando o peixe numa condição natural, depois de alguns meses, ele recuperou completamente. Isso foi algo inovador aí que ele fez lá. O peixinho ficou preso, mas o bom é que curou, né? E hepatos não tem por aí, né, Julian? O hepatos é um peixinho que vem de outro local, né? So, Julian, the Paracanthus hepatus, it's not locally available, let's say that. It's a foreign species, right?
Correct. And so that wasn't correct to put it in the water there, but it was not released, you understand, but it was in a bucket. But what's true is the microbes, the bacteria that it has, is not good to do that. After the fish was cured, then I took it and put it back in the aquarium. So I didn't release it. It was always in a bucket. But
ele se curou, o Julian botou ele de volta para o aquário. Foi alguns meses, né, Julian? Foi quanto tempo? How many months? You mentioned to me a few months.
A few months and completely cured.
2-3 months? That's
about
it?
3 months. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, I wrote about it in the local newsletter for Florida Marine Aquarium Society, and the magazine, FAMA magazine, Freshwater Marine Aquarium magazine, they saw it and they published it.
Oh, that's nice.
I didn't even know. What happened is somebody who gets the magazine called me and said, "Oh, did you know your article was in the magazine published?" And I said, no, I had no idea. So that was really exciting.
They read it for you, Julian, or not?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, they said from the Florida Marine Aquarium Society, author Julian Sprung. And that was in 1982, and I was 15 years old at the time. I turned 16 later.
O Julian, uma coisa bacana que aconteceu, que ele publicou nessa edição local ali, e logo depois uma publicação nacional que se chamava Fama, né, de aquários, Fresh Aquarium and Marine Aquarium,
Freshwater Aquarium Magazine.
A Água Doce, Água Marinha, revista de Água Doce e Água Marinha, e publicou e creditou ele. Então, a nível nacional, o Julian ganhou prestígio, isso com 15 anos. E eu acredito que tu é um dos mais novos lá, né, Julian? Porque geralmente quem tem esse tipo de hobby, pelo menos aqui, são pessoas com 30, 35 anos. Como é que era esse perfil lá no tempo, quando tu começou? And I suppose that you were one of the most youngest, right? Because at least here in Brazil, the ones that have marine aquariums are about 35, 40 years old. How it was back then?
Yeah, I mean, it's true that most people who have marine aquariums are a little bit older, but a lot of people start as teenagers, and I think they still do. I just wanted to mention on the subject of writing, I then, through other channels that I may have talked about when I gave the lecture earlier this year, I then became the Reef Notes editor of that same magazine many years later, when I was, I think 88? Yeah, I was 22 years old by then. Same editor, but I had the opportunity to become this monthly contributing editor talking about reef aquariums.
E com 22 anos, o Julian acabou se tornando o editor dessa revista aí. Então, se envolvendo mais, conhecendo mais. O Danilo ali falou, Edo, não precisa traduzir, porque dá para entender certinho. Mas acontece, Danilo, que muitas pessoas que estão nos escutando ou que vão nos escutar não falam inglês. E eu tenho justamente ao contrário. Muitas pessoas pedem sim que eu faça mais traduções, inclusive, porque às vezes parece um pouquinho resumido. Então, sim, eu tenho que fazer esse jogo de cintura. O Julian já está acostumado já comigo, Julian, às vezes eu interrompo um pouquinho, mas é por um motivo maior. Julian's already used it to me that sometimes I interrupt him, but he knows that it's for a bigger purpose, right, Julian?
Yeah.
E eu me lembro, Julian, que um dos primeiros artigos foi para Seascope que tu escreveu, né? I remember that one of the most important were for the Seascope magazine that you wrote about, right?
Yeah, about nano aquariums. Correct.
Sobre aquários nano, foi o artigo que ele escreveu. Isso aí tomou uma projeção nacional bem grande. Fala para nós desse artigo. Talk to us about this article.
Yeah. So when I was in high school, I had two aquariums, a few small little things, but two aquariums. And then when I went to university, and I went to the University of Florida, actually, I went first to the University of South Florida, and then the second year I went to University of Florida. But I wanted to still have an aquarium. And so I had to, as we say, downsize. You know, when people move from a big house to an apartment, I had to downsize. So I kept some live rocks, some algae, some things, and a few fishes, and I brought them with me to the university, and I maintained at first a 10-gallon aquarium. Eventually,
aquário de 35 anos. O Julian estava antes na Universidade do Sul da Flórida e depois ele se mudou para a Universidade da Flórida. E lá ele teve que levar coisas menores, porque antes ele estava numa casa e foi para um apartamento. E ele levou alguns peixes, levou a rocha, levou algumas algas, e ele teve que montar um aquário de 10 galões, 37 litros. That's 37.5 liters, right?
Yes. And eventually I needed more room, and so then I made it a 15-gallon aquarium.
Okay.
And that's the one that became famous. Because after I graduated from the University of Florida and I moved to the Washington, D.C. area to work for that aquarium company as a biologist, I began to promote the idea that you could have a reef aquarium so small. I had been experimenting with it for years, but I became confident that it was something anyone could do.
E ele começou mudou para um aquário depois de 15 galões, né? Isso daí são 60 litros. E nisso aí ele começou a advogar que era possível sim tu ter um aquário saudável, um aquário nano saudável. Até naquela época não era pensado nisso. E eu lembro que nesse aquário de 15 galões, o Julian tem uma foto linda lá, bacana, ele mostrando e com umas risóforas em cima. Tu tem essa foto aí, Julian?
What's that now? Say again?
Julian.
I'm with you.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, maybe the internet is not working. You stopped. You see me okay?
Yes, I see you okay. So, do you have this photo of the nano aquarium, the one that you have the reservoirs over there?
Got it. Just a minute. Let's see if we switch.
E essa é a pergunta do Wagner. Se é recomendado o uso de risóforas em nanos? O Julian vai estar buscando a foto ali, Wagner, para nos mostrar que foto bacana.
Let's see. How do I switch back to the sharing? Seems you disconnected it.
Okay.
Let's see.
Let me see it. You just open from the share screen again. You open the photo, open the share screen, and it's going to be appearing for me.
Will it? Okay, let's see. Picture of that aquarium.
Oh, you have over there. Okay, just a minute.
Yeah, here it is, the 15-gallon tank.
Yeah.
And you know who took that picture?
Who?
Martin Moe.
O Martin Moe foi quem tirou essa foto. E
Yeah.
o Martin e o Julian, eles são amigos desde que o Julian tinha 12 anos. Eu não sei porque quem levou o Julian lá para conhecer o Martin, mas if I'm not wrong, you met Martin Moe with 12 years old, right, Julian?
11.
11 years old.
Yeah.
And he was friends from your father, right?
Well, not exactly. He gave a lecture at the Florida Marine Aquarium Society that we talk about so many. At the museum, he was there. And my whole family, we came to see him. And
então, o Martin, ele deu uma palestra lá, dava palestras lá na Sociedade da Flórida, e ele estava lá no museu, e a família dele todo foi visitar ele para conhecer o Martin, que ele já era famoso lá naquela época.
So the way it worked was Martin lived in the Florida Keys in Marathon or near Marathon. And my father was a pilot, not a professional pilot, but he liked to fly a small airplane. And so here was an opportunity to indulge in my interest and in my brother Elliot's interest and get to fly the airplane. So we flew from Miami to Marathon, which is a very short flight. And Martin picked us up in the airport and took us to show us his clownfish. And he also was breeding angelfish at that time as well, which was ahead of his time.
Em 1969, o Martin, ele criou os primeiros peixes, como eu falei para vocês, né? E o Martin, ele morava na cidade de Marathon, que fica algumas horas de voo lá de Miami. O pai do Julian, ele é piloto hobbyista, ele não é piloto profissional. Então, com isso, eles conseguiram unir o útil ao agradável. O pai dele foi pilotar e levou ele e o Elliot, para irem lá conhecer o Martin, para ver os peixinhos palhaço do Martin e também uma criação de peixes anjo que o Martin já estava começando. Isso foi 11 anos, então, Julian de 54, mas isso seria 66. But Julian, so you have 54, 54, not born in 54. Which year was that one?
When I went to see Martin?
Yes.
It would have been, if I was 11, let's say, it would have been 1977.
Okay, so about 7 years, because Martin achieved the first clownfish in 69, right?
Yes, yeah. So he had a big operation with clownfish by the time I saw him. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Ele já tinha uma operação gigante, o Martin, naquela época, lá, e foi lá quando eles foram conhecer. E eles são amigos, acho que até hoje. O Julian escreve as entradas para os livros dele, o Martin também. Yeah. And you guys still are really good friends, right? You have a lot of forewords in his books, and you yourself as well have received forewords from him.
Correct. That's it. And actually, I'm working with him now on a new book. He has written a book about culture of diadema, a manual explaining how to do it. And so we're working together to get that book published.
Eles, inclusive, estão trabalhando num livro agora que é sobre a questão da diadema SP. É uma espécie de sea urchin. Caramba, cara. Sea urchin, ouriço do mar. Ok. É uma espécie de ouriço do mar que é muito importante, tá? Porque ele come as algas que estão nas rochas e eles são a base de um ecossistema gigantesco, principalmente lá na Flórida. Eu acho que eu vi umas fotos, acho que era do Scott Michael lá, como era antes dos anos 80, porque depois teve um vírus que matou. It was a virus, right? That killed all the diadema.
Nobody really knows. There's a suspicion of a certain type of bacteria. Virus is a possibility, but it was never definitively shown what it was. Can you imagine there was such an opportunity when the urchins were dying all over the Caribbean, and nobody took the samples to really determine what it was that was killing them. So they don't know.
Então, dizimou a população, não se sabe se era um vírus ou uma bactéria, e isso praticamente acabou com grande parte da população em todo o Caribe. E esses animais são extremamente importantes para o ecossistema. E o Martin se dedicou, acho que já está uns 10 anos, it's about 10 years that he's been focused on the Diadema species growing, right?
Yeah, I think a little bit longer even, yes.
Então, já mais do que isso, já trabalhando com isso. And now the success have been achieved, right? He's been able to realize it, right?
Yes. It's not a perfect success. He was able to raise the diadema, as well as several other people who were working on the problem at the same time. Currently, there's a group at the Florida Aquarium in Tampa that is growing a large number of larvae and getting success to settlement and make diadema urchins. But there's still a lot to learn how to make it perfect where they could grow thousands and thousands of them. It's not there yet.
Have you guys already started introducing to the ecosystem, or still not?
Yeah, that's another problem. The attempts at doing that have not been very successful. There's issues with predation. Fishes come in and eat them. So I think we have a lot to learn yet to succeed in making a recovery of the species.
Então, essa questão ainda, existem vários problemas, ainda não atingiram uma quantidade muito grande de produção, e existe a questão da predação na reintrodução dos ouriços no mar. E essas coisas eu vou estar abordando bastante com o Martin na terça-feira, tá, pessoal? Então, se vocês não são inscritos no canal, se inscrevam ainda, e a gente vai estar tratando dessas coisas. Já estamos caminhando para 1 hora da live. Mais uma vez, uma boa noite aí pro Wagner, pro Júlio. O Júnior estava aí com nós. O Aquário Riff, o Danilo Cardoso, o Alain, um grande amigo meu também lá de Porto Alegre, o Marco Martins. E sejam bem-vindos aí para estarem junto conosco. E vamos agora para outra questão. Vamos começar as questões aí mais focadas, né? Eu gostaria de saber do Julian quem é o sócio dele e como que surgiu a ideia da Two Little Fishes. Julian, we are going more for the questions that we has been passed already 1 hour from our start talking. Tell us who your business part, how you guys get together, and how Two Little Fishes was born.
Okay, so I'll click to that picture. There you go.
Okay.
That's me and Daniel Ramirez. And the way it started was, again, back to the Florida Marine Aquarium Society. Danny Ramirez was a member of the society and a hobbyist. And he saw me give a lecture back in it would have been late 1990. And he afterwards tried to reach me because he had this idea to make a video, an educational video about setting up a coral reef aquarium. And he wondered whether I would be willing to write it and narrate it, and he could produce it because he knew people in the video production industry.
And Daniel is your business partner on the Two Little Fishes.
He was. We started the company in 1991. I was, let's see, how old would I have been then? 25, yeah. So I was 25 years old. He would have been, gosh, I don't know exactly how old. I'd have to do some math, but he was much older. although you couldn't tell looking at pictures of us.
O Daniel conheceu o Julian na Sociedade Marinha, né? Em 1989, ele viu o Julian dando uma palestra e ele gostou muito daquilo lá e ele veio com a ideia de fazer videoaulas, né? De publicar videoaulas em que o Julian ia fazer, convidou o Julian para fazer isso e isso seria vendido, né? Posteriormente. E ele teria as pessoas certas para fazer isso, estava disposto a publicar, e é assim que começou aí o negócio. Essa questão de vídeo aula foi bem popular nos Estados Unidos, né, Julian? These videotape classes were really popular over there in USA, right?
Yeah. Imagine that, a VHS videotape. People would buy them and they would rent them. This was, a brief period in time when you could actually make a business about that. So, to make a long story short, we produced the video. That was the first product of Two Little Fishies, and we sold a lot of them. They retailed for $75 each.
Oh boy.
We sold some retail. Most of what we sold was wholesale, so about half of that. But we sold thousands of them. It was a pretty good start for the business.
You mentioned $75. How much would cost a movie, for example, back then?
People would rent movies. They didn't. I don't know if they would buy the movie. You would rent it. I guess if you could buy it, I don't know what it would cost. Maybe $30 or $40, but
it's about 2 to 3 times different prices, right? Increase.
Yeah.
Então, o primeiro produto da Two Little Fishes foi essas videoaulas do Julian. Era $75. Um filme, mais ou menos, custava em torno de $20 a $30, tá? E assim foi, e eles venderam muitas fitas, milhares, o Julian está falando, e a grande maioria foi para distribuição, então a metade desse preço. E assim nasceu a Two Little Fishes. E o Julian tinha que pegar e botar isso aí no YouTube, né? Deve ter sido uma coisa bem bacana de ver. Julian, you really should put that on YouTube, because I think it's going to be something really nice to see about history.
I have been thinking about that, and I probably will do that, because, the information is mostly good, but it's old still, but I think just for historical purposes, it's intriguing, and you can watch it. There's some beautiful scenery, although you have to remember that the quality of video back in 1991 was not quite the same as our high def.
But it would be incredible to see you back then. As I mentioned to you, the historical value is incredible. Even for us Brazilians, I would say that you're the main figure, and not only for the Brazilians, I believe in the world, about marine hobby keeping, and it would be wonderful to have the historical piece available for all of us to watch it.
Well, it'll happen. I'll do it.
Ok. Então o Julian vai botar isso daí na internet.
Anyway, I've thought about it. Danny is 23 years older than I am. Can you tell that looking at that picture?
No, I can't.
Yeah, you still couldn't tell it. We're still friends, of course, but he retired. He retired when he turned 65. And that's now, that was in 2007. He retired. So a long time ago already.
Em 2007, o Danny ele se aposentou e saiu da empresa. E isso aconteceu em 2007, quando ele tinha 65 anos. E daí hoje é só tu, né, Julian, que toca a empresa, correto? That's only yourself now that run the company.
Yes, that's correct.
Quantos funcionários tem e exportam para quantos países, Julian? How many employees, and to which countries do you export your goods?
Well, we currently have 10 employees. Actually, I'm sorry, we hired one. We have 11. And I have a phone call that I'm going to ignore. And that's one of my employees, by the way, called. He sent me a text a moment ago asking me a question about his aquarium. So it's not an emergency, don't worry. Anyway, let's see, we ship, I don't even know how many countries, but we do ship all over the world. So we have obviously Brazil, Central America, Australia, China, Japan, Vietnam, Thailand, Singapore,
That's nice.
the European Union, United Kingdom, Canada. Where else are we shipping? In the Middle East, also Israel.
A Two Little Fish tem 11 funcionários, tá? E eles exportam para vários países, sejam eles Israel, Reino Unido, Tailândia, China, inclusive aqui no Brasil. No Brasil, eu acredito que são os parceiros mais antigos, que é o Alexandre Talarico do Grupo Onda, né? Que representa eles de forma exclusiva já há muitos anos. Eu acho que desde 92, né, Julian? It's 92 that you have started the cooperation with Alexandre, right?
Yes, I think he was one of our first international distributors, a long time. Yeah, probably since 92.
Então, desde 92, eles já são parceiros comerciais aí do Grupo Onda, e são um dos mais antigos, sendo que a empresa começou em 91. Ele importou a fita, Julian, ou não? He imported the videotape from you or not?
I don't know. Ask him. Probably.
I will do that.
Yeah, we after the video we started selling kalkwasser, and, high purity kalkwasser, and hydrocarbon, which is very popular now in Brazil. And we started selling some books as well. So if Alexandra was bringing in products from us back then, yeah, I mean, there was the video, there were a few products, Combi Sand from Peter Wilkins, the trace element supplement. That would have been something he would have brought in, I'm sure.
Os primeiros produtos aí que o Alexandre começou a trazer com eles foram a Kalkwasser, né? O peróxido de... A Kalkwasser foi um dos primeiros produtos que ele trouxe. Depois também teve o Hydrocarbon, que foi um produto super popular. E isso daí foram os primeiros produtos que eles trouxeram para cá, para o Brasil, e com certeza o Alexandre trouxe isso. O Hydrocarbon está sendo bastante famoso aqui, está tendo bastante sucesso comercial. Explica o que o Hydrocarbon faz, Julian. So, talk us about the Hydrocarbon.
Okay, well, activated carbon, of course, has been used for many years in aquariums, and the purpose of it is to absorb dissolved organic compounds. The advantage for the typical hobbyist is that by removing those dissolved organic compounds, the water stays colorless. Some organic compounds make the water look yellow. So when we started working with Peter Wilkins, he had marketed an activated carbon that he called hydrocarbon, and he was marketing that in Europe. I was using different types of carbon in my own aquarium, and one thing I noticed was that some activated carbons would leach phosphate into the water, and that this could contribute to problems with algae. So I independently began to research if I could find an activated carbon that did not leach phosphate. And it took some time.
Allow me to do the translation, otherwise I'm going to get lost. O carvão ativado, então, o hydrocarbon, ele tem por objetivo absorver, né, partículas maiores, principalmente da matéria orgânica dissolvida, que torna a água amarela. Isso afeta várias coisas aí que tem, que a gente já tratou em outros episódios. E só que naquela época, esses carvões aí, eles soltavam fosfato na água também. E isso podia gerar vários problemas com algas. Nessa época, o Julian tinha um parceiro, que era o Peter Wilkins, e ele comercializava um carvão que se chamava hydrocarbon lá. E o Julian, de forma independente, foi atrás de um carvão que tivesse a característica de não soltar o fosfato na água. Mas deixa eu entender, o Peter Wilkins trabalhava contigo, Julian? Ele fazia parte da Two Little Fishes ou não? Como que era essa relação? Julian, you have been citing to us Peter Wilkins, but he was a business partner from you, or what?
Well, a partner in the sense that we represented his products in the USA. And that was, I mean, the main product from him was the Kombi-san. Kalkwasser was something that he educated the entire aquarium hobby about. And he encouraged us to bring it to market in the USA. He said, you should really sell it. It was not his kalkwasser. It was one that we sourced in the USA with a high purity. For the carbon, as I mentioned, he produced something called hydrocarbon, but I wanted to sell a carbon that was phosphate-free. And I found one, and so I called it hydrocarbon 2. That's why if you look at the label, you see the 2. And the 2 is a reference that it's not the same as what Peter had, and it's like two little fishies, hydrocarbon 2.
O Peter Wilkins, ele pegou e criou essa questão aí, ele que foi responsável por introduzir o Kalkwasser no hobby. E ele vendia os produtos dele através da representação do Julian, da Two Little Fishes, lá nos Estados Unidos. E o principal produto dele, ou um dos produtos dele, era o hydrocarbon, mas tinha esse problema de vazar a fosfato no aquário. E o Julian criou o produto hydrocarbon 2, que é um produto da Two Little Fishes que não vaza o fosfato.
Yes. So also Peter had written some books, and we distributed his books for a number of years in the US. I'm sure Alexandra got some of those too.
Yes, I'm trying to remember him from which books I have heard him, because his name is, I record his name from maybe a foreword or something like that.
Yes, I have a picture here of him somewhere. Let's see. There's Bruce Carlson, but here's Peter. Okay. And also, sadly, like my brother, Peter passed away from cancer within, I think, less than a year from when my brother passed away. It was a bad time for the aquarium hobby. And I think you can't say enough how much Peter Wilkins changed the trajectory of aquarium keeping. He was really a father of reef keeping worldwide. He revealed the techniques that we use today, and like a salmon swimming against the river, going against the tide of the more clinical aquarium approach. He really pushed the natural system, natural techniques, used his science background to explain the chemistry of how it was important to maintain calcium and alkalinity, how trace elements worked, how biological filtration worked. And he wasn't, I wouldn't say the only one, but he really is the single one that got people to understand how to grow corals. And so,
o Peter Wilkins, ele morreu 6 meses depois que o irmão do Julian. Isso foi lá em 2010, né? 10 anos atrás. E se existe uma pessoa, assim, na opinião do Julian, que mais contribuiu para o entendimento do nosso hobby, evolução do nosso hobby, foi o Peter Wilkins. Ele foi a pessoa que advogou a utilização de um método natural, de uma aproximação mais natural, e isso ele fez graças a todo o conhecimento científico que ele tem, né, a trajetória científica que ele tem. O Peter, qual era a nacionalidade dele, Jun? His nationality was?
Well, he was German by birth, but he lived in Switzerland.
Ele era alemão, mas viveu na Suíça.
Yeah.
Então, qual foi essa? Cita para nós outras contribuições aí que deixaram o Peter Wilkins mais relevante no nosso hobby. Mention to us Peter Wilkins' biggest contributions for the hobby, Julian.
I think, yeah, there are a few. He was one of the first to promote protein skimming in marine aquarium. There were a couple other guys who designed protein skimmers. Even Peter designed his own. He had a unique little skimmer that he manufactured at his place. But he was one of the first to demonstrate the benefits of protein skimming in a marine aquarium.
O Peter foi um dos primeiros a advogar a utilização dos skimmers no aquarismo marinho, né? Aí ele tinha até um produto que ele fabricava, mas ele foi o primeiro a ressaltar a importância desse equipamento.
And Kalkwasser, for sure, was his baby. A balanced calcium and alkalinity supplement that raised pH. That was his introduction to the aquarium keeping. That really made a difference for growing corals.
E a maior contribuição dele foi a Kalkwasser, né, o hidróxido de cálcio. E isso aí que trouxe ele mais conhecido. Isso daí aconteceu no começo da década de 90, né? Depois já veio o Craig com as duas partes, né? Mas antes era só Kalkwasser, né, Julian? Julian, it was in the beginning of the 90s. So firstly, Peter brought us the Kalkwasser, and then a few
years. 1980s he was doing that.
1980s already.
Yes, and also algae filtration, live rock and live sand. So these are things that we commonly call the Berlin method, because he taught his techniques to German aquarists, and there was a society in Berlin that promoted these ideas. And they were the ideas from Peter Wilkins. He wrote about them and published it, and it became a method that was practiced in the, first starting in Berlin and then throughout Germany and the Netherlands. Yeah.
Então, a Kalkwasser, o hidróxido de cálcio, foi uma das criações dele já nos anos 80. E ele foi a pessoa que advogou a utilização de areia viva, de rocha viva, e isso ficou conhecido como o método Berlim. Por quê? Porque em Berlim tinha uma sociedade de aquário marinho, na qual o Peter compartilhou essas ideias, publicava artigos, e essa associação divulgou essas características. Então, o Peter Wilkins foi quem trouxe esses dados. Voltando àquele ponto, o Peter ele veio com Kalkwasser e depois foi só nos 91, 92 que o Craig Bingman começou a trazer a questão das duas partes, né, Julian?
Right.
So, back to the idea, Peter Wilkins started with the Kalkwasser in the 80s, and then after that, it was around 92 that Craig Bingman brought us the two-part, right?
Well, no. It would have been, I think, right around 94, 95 that Bingman was doing that. And yeah, like 94, I think. Yes.
Foi em 94 que daí o Craig Bingman começou a trazer a questão das duas partes, daí, de estar usando cloreto de cálcio e bicarbonato de sódio em soluções diferentes. Antes era só o hidróxido de cálcio, que era o Kalkwasser, que foi o Peter aí uma das pessoas a pessoa que trouxe isso, né?
Yeah.
Uma pergunta do Alan ali, a questão da utilização do calc, né, em um aquário ainda. O Julian acredita que isso traz uma relevância grande ainda tem pessoas que conseguem manter um bom aquário de SPS apenas com Kalkwasser. Julian, it's relevant now, a question from the audience. Is there still an aquarium that only uses Kalkwasser? It's possible to do that? How much work you need to apply for it?
So your question is it possible to maintain an aquarium only with Kalkwasser as the calcium and alkalinity?
We can say that, and how much effort it's going to bring that. Is it still a popular method over there in USA?
Yes. Oh yeah, it's definitely popular, and I use it on many of my aquariums. Some of my aquariums I do the 2-part, but you can use 2-part and Kalkwasser as well, because Kalkwasser normally you set it up for top-off water to replace what's evaporated. And since you have to replace the evaporated water anyway, you might as well put calcium and alkalinity in it. You might as well have the calcium hydroxide. It's not too much work. Really, the only concern is if you're using it as top-off water, you don't want to only rely on a level switch as your trigger to dose it, because the level switch can make a mistake. So there needs to be some kind of a time limit on how long the dosing can go. And with the time limit, you can safely dose Kalkwasser because it raises the pH.
O Kalkwasser, o hidróxido de cálcio, continua sendo um método relevante e muito popular nos Estados Unidos. Ele é utilizado principalmente com a água de reposição. Tu dosa ele através da água de reposição, mas não unicamente o Kalkwasser. Ele é vamos dizer assim, ele é uma complementação. E o Julian ressalta que uma coisa que sempre tem que tomar cuidado é não utilizar somente boias mecânicas, porque elas podem falhar. Tu tens que ter algum tipo de mecanismo de segurança para garantir que não vai acontecer uma tragédia no teu aquário de a baia falhar e dar algum problema com isso.
So I hope that answered his question. It would take more to explain the best way to set it up. I think it's too complicated now, but it's certainly possible to maintain an aquarium with automatic Kalkwasser dosing and not need anything else for calcium and alkalinity. Eventually, when the corals have too much mass in the aquarium, then you need to supplement with something else.
Sim, é perfeitamente possível manter um aquário com Kalkwasser, a não ser, claro, quando os corais já estão grandes, que tem uma massa muito grande, que tu vai precisar de muitos cloretos, cálcio e bicarbonatos, né? Vamos para as perguntas mais técnicas agora. A gente já discutiu como surgiu a Tuluro Fishes, né? Quem era o sócio dele. E agora vamos falar sobre a questão do Acropower. Para quem não assistiu ainda, o Jake Adams, que esteve junto conosco aqui algumas semanas atrás, ele falou muito bem, ele recomendou, basicamente fez questões lá de trazer os galões que ele dosa de Acropower dentro do aquário. E nós tivemos aí grandes amigos aí também que ficaram interessados, eu também, em saber como funciona e falar mais desse produto. So, Julian, on the last interview with Jake Adams, he mentioned for us and talked really big words about Acropower, saying how important it is for him, and he actually got us and showed us jugs of your product, saying that's the most wonderful thing that he uses over there to promote the SPS growth. Yeah. So, tell us, in the bottle, it does not show the constitution of the Acropower. What is there? Tell us more about it, how it works and what it promotes, why it makes such a unique product.
Okay. Well, I will start by saying that among several people, let's see how I can explain. Jake was one of several people who said to me, you know, Julian, you should look at amino acids having effect on corals. There were a few products in the marketplace where the manufacturers were promoting that the amino acids they contain would make the corals grow better, or be stronger, extend their polyps. And for years, I would see that and think about it, and my opinion was, well, amino acids are the components of proteins, and when you feed your fish and you feed your corals, there's going to be proteins and amino acids there, and I don't see how putting amino acids in the aquarium could possibly make a difference.
O Jake Adams, ele foi uma das pessoas que, uma dentre as pessoas que advocaram, que sugeriram para o Julian a dar uma olhada, a pesquisar a respeito da questão dos aminoácidos no aquário marinho. Mas o Julian ele não acreditava muito nisso, não dava muita bola, porque, queira ou não, os aminoácidos são componentes de proteínas que já vêm quando nós alimentamos os peixes, quando alimentamos os corais.
Okay, so what I'm trying to communicate is that I was a skeptic. I really didn't believe that it could make much of a difference, okay? But Jake, as well as several of our customers, Two Little Fishies customers who were distributors, said to me, you know, we have tried some of these products and we see benefits for the corals. You should look at it, okay? Now, as a hobbyist and a manufacturer, I don't solicit information. I don't say, oh, what should I make, right? What they said to me was, you should look at it. And so I thought, okay, I'll experiment. And what I did is I bought individual amino acids and I tried dosing them.
Pharmaceutical grade or already from other distributors?
No, individual. It's pharmaceutical grade amino acid powders, which you can find.
Então o Julian ele era cético a respeito dessa questão de aminoácidos, né? Ele não acreditava muito nisso, mas tinham várias pessoas dizendo para ele. Ele, como além de fabricante, como robista, ele não pensa assim qual produto novo que eu vou produzir, mas ele teve interesse. Então ele investiu comprou vários aminoácidos, não de outros fabricantes, mas ele começou a experimentar com isso.
Okay, so for some of them, I found that the corals, when you added them to the water, they would have a feeding response. You could tell that they could smell it and notice it. And that wasn't a surprise, no big deal. Some of them, there was no response. I didn't see anything. Some of them, I noticed promoted algae growth if I added too much. And then I found some that did something that I never imagined. Within 1 or 2 days, you could see a difference in the color of the coral. So
então, ele experimentou vários aminoácidos. Alguns tinham uma resposta de alimentação. Outros aminoácidos, o coral não fazia nada. E alguns que ele colocou lá, 2 dias depois, 3 dias depois, o Julian viu grandes diferenças na coloração dos corais.
Yeah, so the fluorescent pigment of the coral, whether it's green or red or orange, purple, the color would become more intense.
A pigmentação fluorescente, independente de qual era, se verde, se vermelha, ela se tornava muito mais intensa depois dessa dosagem.
Okay, so when I saw that, I had to think about it and say, okay, is there any precedent for this in the scientific literature? And I looked, and there wasn't. There's nothing written about it. What exists is literature talking about what amino acids are found in the coral tissue and in the skeleton of the coral. Okay? So I saw those scientific articles, and I thought, that's interesting, but I'm making an observation of amino acids influencing the coral fluorescent pigments. And I thought about writing about it, but then I thought, no, I should follow what I've been told, that two little fishies should make something from it. So in addition, I found that for certain amino acids, it did promote more rapid growth, the extension of the skeleton in the SPS corals. So clearly there was an influence because when a coral is making its skeleton, it first creates an organic matrix. It's a protein mesh, you could think of it, like a net. And then the calcium carbonate crystals form on top of that mesh. So that part was known in the scientific literature, that there were amino acids involved in the formation of that base organic matrix that is the foundation that the corals lay their skeleton on. So that I was able to observe. But
o Julian ele começou a experimentar esses aminoácidos nos aquários, né? Ele viu que existiam alguns que deixavam as cores muito mais intensas, e ele foi atrás dessa informação. O que já existia de conhecimento científico sobre isso? O Julian achou somente quais aminoácidos continham em tecidos de corais, nos esqueletos dos corais. Mas não o que eles faziam, o quê. E o Julian, por um momento, chegou a pensar em escrever os resultados dessa pesquisa, mas daí ele pensou melhor e resolveu fazer aquilo que os amigos dele tinham dito para ele, que era fazer um produto sobre isso. A formação de um coral, primeiro é feita uma teia, um tecido, uma matriz com os aminoácidos, e depois, por baixo dessa camada, é onde acontece a deposição de carbonato de cálcio. Então isso já era conhecido, mas quais fazem o que? Ainda não.
Okay, so I'm not. It would not serve me to tell you exactly what the composition is, but it is a mix of amino acids in water, and I can tell you that amino acids. The solubility is relatively low, and we put as much as we can of the different components that are in there. We bring them up to the state of saturation.
Então, são vários aminoácidos diluídos na água e eles estão em ponto ao próximo de saturação.
So we could not make it more concentrated. That it is as strong as it can be. And I using the full strength solution, I then came up with a dosage amount, which is a little bit confusing, I think, for some people. What I wanted to do was to give a minimum dosage to give the effect, to see the change in color and the promotion of growth, polyp extension, all of those things. And then I had to come up with what would be the maximum dosage. And what I found was if I added too much, I would see some cyanobacteria on the sand. So I decided that the best way to describe the dosage would be to add the minimum dosage daily And the maximum dosage would be that same dose, but every day. Okay? So if you want to do something less than the maximum dosage, then you can decide whether to reduce from my daily recommended minimum or add it fewer days per week. My recommendation is to add the dosage, which is here. It's 5 milliliters per 95 liters of aquarium, okay? And to add that all at once, and you could add it every day, so that's 7 times a week, or you could add it 2 days a week, or you could add it 3 days a week, or 5, as you wish, every other day, something like that.
Então, o Julian ele criou, baseado nesses estudos, uma dosagem mínima que ele sugere para a utilização, que é de 5 ml a cada 95 litros de água. Isso deve promover a extensão de pólipos, tu vai ver uma melhor coloração, consequentemente um crescimento dos corais. Quando tu dosa muito, a dosagem máxima sugerida todos os dias da semana, o Julian começou a ver alguns pontos de cianobactéria. Então, ele recomenda que dose a quantidade mínima. Se tu quiser dosar todos os dias, ok. Se tu quiser dosar 2, 3 vezes na semana, também sem problema. Essa é uma questão que eu já vou estar puxando agora, então, Julian. Essa questão, né, da cianobactéria, ela tem sido e é muito, muito tratada como um desbalanço na questão da quantidade de carbono que tem no aquário. Então, essa é uma outra pergunta do Léo Cardoso, que deve estar aí nos assistindo, do Léo Carvalho, que está aí nos assistindo, sobre a questão se existe ou não carbono dentro do aquário, dentro do Acropower. So, Julian, this is a question from Léo Carvalho, a big aquarist here in Brazil, and he brings us a question that is mentioned for me to introduce now. You mentioned to me that it seems you see a little increase on the proliferation of cyanobacteria, and it's theorized that cyanobacteria is caused by an imbalance according to the carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus balance. So, is there any carbon source inside Acropower?
No. I mean, of course, amino acid could, depending which one you know, could supply some, but it does not have a separate carbon source, which what he's referring to would be like a sugar or
alcohol or something like that.
Alcohol or something. No, there is not. So, and that the reason why, I believe the reason why an overdose of Acropower might promote cyanobacteria is, I believe it is the amino acid itself is being assimilated by the cyanobacteria as a source of food, or by some other organism which, you know, by proliferating is then supplying something that the cyanobacteria uses.
Não tem carbono, fonte de carbono específica, sejam açúcares ou sejam álcools dentro da fórmula, tá? O que o Julian acredita é que pode acontecer que os aminoácidos sirvam de alimento para algum outro organismo que está lá dentro, e isso faz com que ocorra a proliferação da cianobactéria. Yes, Julian?
I will say, though, that to maintain the stability of amino acids in solution, the solution needs to be acidic. And so in that sense, you know, there is a very, very small amount of a substance that you could call a carbon source, but it's not, you know, it's not vinegar, okay, and it's not a major component of the product.
Retificando, tá, pessoal? A solução do Acropower, ela tem que estar em meio ácido para que tu mantenha um ponto de saturação, de não saturação dos elementos dentro da solução, tá? E existe ali um componente que pode-se dizer que é uma fonte de carbono, mas ela não é colocada de propósito ali, não é vinagre, tá?
Yeah.
Então...
It's not vinegar, no alcohol, none of that.
Ok. Uma pergunta do André Luiz Simões. É a melhor dosar uma vez por semana ou dividir a dose e dosar diariamente? So, going back for the topic, you mentioned to us that you can dose it daily or you can dose it a few times a week. The question from André is the following. Is it better, can we say it's better to dose one time a week or it's better for us to dose it daily?
Well, again, here I'll try to explain. It's what I said before. Okay. I'll explain it so that you understand me, and then I'll tell you how you need to.
Okay.
When people ask that question, it shows that they don't understand it exactly. Because if I tell you what the dose is per day, and then you try to dose it daily, you will take my dose and you will divide it by 7. And then you will add too few. It'll be not enough to see the result. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what I'm saying is 5 mils per 25 liters. That's a good dose. Okay, if you add that amount, you will see results. Now,
25 or 95?
25 liters. So be careful to make sure you, here. Excuse me, 25 gallons, 95 liters.
Okay.
I'm getting tired. 95 liters, yes.
Okay.
5 mils, 95 liters. I think of it in the 25 gallons. So if you add that amount once per week, you will see some results. You know, within a few days of adding it, you'll see results. But your aquarium, if you have a lot of corals, it may take more. So in that case, you could add it twice a week or 3 times. If you find that by adding it multiple times per week, if you see cyanobacteria, all you need to do is reduce, either reduce the dosage amount, take it back a little bit, instead of 5 mils, maybe 4 mils, or 1 day less, okay? And when you reduce the dosage, the cyanobacteria will disappear. It's not like a problem algae. They really only appear when there's excess that the corals aren't using, which gets to another point. You know, the corals utilize it during the day and they use it very quickly. So when you add it to the aquarium, the corals are assimilating it right away. If you add too much, then other organisms like cyanobacteria may also use it. So it's like the break. Back to his question, 1 time a week with a recommended dose, that's the minimum. And if you want to add it daily, you could add less than that minimum dose, but I don't recommend to go much less, because if you are 1 milliliter per day, you may not see the effect. It's too little. You see what I mean?
I see, Julian, but one thing that I want to ask. Pessoal, eu já vou traduzir para vocês, tá? O Julian pediu para passar o ponto inteiro para mim, para eu entender e passar para vocês, tá? Eu vou fazer para ele uma outra questão aqui e aí depois eu vou traduzir tudo. Julian, one thing that you mentioned to me, so it's important for us to see the results, but these dose that you mentioned to me, since they are readily consumed by the corals during the day, it will depend on the bioload, right? So you have a bunch of corals, this dosage is not going to be enough, right?
Right. That is right.
And it's important for us to keep a constance. For example, when you dose another product that has nothing to do with Acropower, let's say when we do a carbon source, it's really important for us to keep it constancy, because if we fail 1 or 2 days, the bacteria that absorbs it is going to die off. So the constancy of Acropower dosing is important, or not?
In my experience, it's not like carbon dosing. I think of it more as like a food for the coral. And so if you give it to them every week, you will see the benefit. You'll see the color, the polyp extension, the growth. But you don't need it going in every hour of every day to see the benefit.
So dosing it once a week, if you have, let's say, the right dosage for the right bioload, it will be as good as dosing it daily.
I didn't say it that way. Well, but dosing it once a week would be the minimum to be able to see the benefit. For an aquarium that has a good bioload of corals, you're probably going to need to dose it more than once a week. It's probably going to be at least twice or 3 times a week.
Understood. Então, pessoal, assim, eu vou tentar traduzir, é uma tarefa difícil agora, porque a gente conversou bastante coisa a respeito, tá? A dosagem que o Julian traz ali, que são 5 ml para 95 litros de água, ela varia de acordo com a quantidade de corais que tu tem ali. Essa dosagem é a dosagem mínima para que tu consiga enxergar resultados. Os aminoácidos, eles, quando colocados lá na água, eles são absorvidos quase que imediatamente pelos corais. Quando tu tem uma superdosagem, isso vai promover algum pouco de cianobactéria. Mas aí o que tu faz? Tu reduz a próxima dosagem e a cianobactéria vai sumir. Não vira um problema existente, não é um problema grave, entendeu? É só tu reduzir um pouco da dosagem. A questão é que não vai fazer... Para aquários com mais corais, tu vai precisar dosar mais dias da semana. Yes, Julian?
I'm going to add some to the aquarium.
O Julian vai botar um pouco aqui no aquário. Julian, just use the experience to show us how your fish tank looks like.
Yeah. We'll try the... not so easy. So here, adding Acropower.
Oh boy, that's a beautiful fish.
Yeah, like that. Okay. So by hand. And yeah, let's see, there's...
An imperator, you have some clowns. I think it's wonderful, Jim.
Yeah.
Hey, Julian, so after the hurricane, everyone survived, all the corals, or you lost some?
Oh, I lost some corals. You know, you probably saw my lecture on that. But as you can see, they've grown back. The Acroporus, only one survived. That purple one that's right there is the only survivor.
Purple or what?
What's that?
Valida purple?
Yes, it is probably a Valida. Yeah, it's this one right there.
O Julian, para quem não sabe, teve o furacão Irma ano passado ou ano retrasado, e o Julian perdeu todos os peixes e vários corais, só sobreviveu uma acrópora, né? Os outros corais já se recuperaram aí. Infelizmente, o Julian perdeu todos os peixinhos, perdeu até o Harlequin Tuskfish que ele tinha lá. Então, uma pena.
But the LPS, they survived. The bubble coral here survived. The Gorgonians.
As gorgônias, os LPS, a grande maioria sobreviveu. E agora o Julian instalou uma bateria da Tesla.
You can see yeah, that's right. You see the colors?
They look
Also-
wonderful, Julian.
Yeah.
E funciona legal, Julian, aquela bateria da Tesla lá, eu acho que não tem no Brasil ainda.
Yeah.
And do they work fine, that Tesla battery, man?
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. So when the power goes out, if we lose electricity, the battery kicks in. You don't even notice it. The lights don't even blink. It's just continuous power. Yeah. I can show you.
Solar charged, or you can
Solar
still charge?
charged. I have solar panels on the roof. Let me see. I can show you now what's happening. Not a good time to show it because today we had rain the whole day. So right now, let's see, can you see this? On my phone. Yes. Right now, I'm getting all my power from Florida Power and Light, the grid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the reason is that my power wall, it was a bad day. It shows power consumption. Let's see, back. There's showing the power wall. It has 41% charge. And that was something that I set in case we lose electricity. I wanted to have a minimum amount of backup to keep the aquariums going.
Então esse daí é um carregador solar que tem uma bateria. Essa bateria é da fabricante Tesla, lá do Elon Musk, que ele começou a fazer isso e daí ela armazena energia solar. No caso do Julian ali tá com 41%, que foi uma coisa que ele configurou. Ele configurou uma vida mínima de 41% aí caso tenha uma falta de energia para tá trazendo. E isso daí é bem melhor do que o gerador, né, Julian? Não faz barulho nem nada e é um investimento muito caro ou não? So I suppose that's much better than a power generator because of the noise and things like that. Right. It was a big investment or not, Julian?
It is a big investment. For two of them, installed about $18,000.
Oh boy, that's a huge investment.
Yes, but a generator, of course, you can have a generator for a few $100s, but then you have to be there to start it up, and you need to add fuel to it. A more expensive option would be an automatic generator where you connect it with liquid propane, natural gas, but those are relatively expensive. For one with capacity would be maybe $10,000 or more, and makes a lot of noise, and it occupies a big place. It's a big machine. And not necessarily reliable. They have to be exercised. They have to come on and maintain their performance. In Miami Beach, where we have a lot of salt in the air, machines outside, they don't last very long.
And when you have your own saltwater pound in the back door as well.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. So anyway, it was a big investment, but it was not just for the aquariums. It's also for our house, for the refrigerator, for the food. It runs the house, and it's used continuously. So since we have solar power, we store that electricity, the excess that we produce. Of course, once the batteries are full, then the extra electricity we produce goes to Florida Power and Light. We give it away. But it's something that we use daily. Whereas if you had a generator, you only use it when you have no power.
Here in Brazil, well, at least in my state, it's quite popular to have the solar power, and what it does is that the energy that you produce, it goes back the power meter. So the company pays you back, and then when you're consuming more than producing, it goes for the right direction.
That's right. We have something like that, but they don't pay you for it.
That's business for them, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Então o Julian colocou essas questões aí, que foi um investimento de aproximadamente $80 mil, as duas instaladas. E armazena energia, e a energia excessiva, infelizmente, é descartada, né? Eles não conseguem aproveitar. Eu lembro que o Julian, ele sempre divulgou, né, a questão dos refúgios. Tem um vídeo dele ainda muito, muito bacana, dele e do Jake Adams, falando sobre a utilização ou não de refúgios. E eu queria saber disso, se a opinião dele mudou ou não mudou, porque hoje a gente vê um monte de gente fazendo uma exportação mais do que suficiente com a utilização de caetomorfalinos, né? E eu queria saber disso dele, se ele ainda acha interessante o refúgio ou se a macroalga já assumiu uma questão mais importante para ele. Julian, there's a quite famous video about you and Jake Adams mentioning and talking about the refuge and how important it is for the nutrient export. Nowadays, we see, especially here in Brazil, algae scrubbers. A lot of people making nutrient exports from nitrates and phosphates with caetomorphalinos. And it's quite successful. Myself as well, I have trouble with keeping at least a few phosphates in my aquarium.
Yeah.
How about your opinion? Do you still believe that refugiums are easy and more, let's say, more practical to keep than an algae scrubber in the case of Caulipa or Caetomorphalinus export method?
Well, I don't think that it's fair to make a competition of a refugium versus a ketomorpha reactor. They accomplish similar things, but you know, obviously there are differences. How shall I put it this way? A refugium is kind of like another aquarium. It's another space where you grow algae, and also you have other organisms. You have pods, copepods, amphipods. Usually in a refugium, you also have a substrate, some kind of a sand or mud. Okay. Whereas an algae filter, whether it's a ketomorpha reactor or a turf scrubber where the algae are grown on a screen, it's also a refugium, but not in the same sense of the aquarium. It's more of a the intent is a culture of algae, and usually it's a culture of only one type of algae. On the turf filter, you might have a few species, whereas the ketomorpha is just one main species there. So comparing them, well, probably the turf scrubber and the ketomorpha reactor will be more efficient at assimilating the nutrients, actually taking them out of the water. You got that? Or should I let you translate?
I do got that.
Whereas the refugium does two things. The refugium has the assimilation into the algae that are growing in the refugium, and it also has the dissimilation. You've got the biological aspect in the sand, the biological filtration. And so there's differences there. Assimilatory reduction of nitrogen and phosphorus is literally like a sponge soaking it up. The plants in the algal filter and the ketomorpha reactor soak up the nutrients, and then you harvest the plants and get rid of them. Whereas a refugium has that, but it also has the sand that will denitrify. You get dissimilation, breaking down of nitrate into nitrogen gas, and the process of conversion of ammonia to nitrate. You have all of that happening. They're different, but it's not fair to compare them, because maybe somebody wants to have a refugium and they're happy with that, or maybe somebody doesn't have the room for a refugium and there's only room enough to have an algal filter or a ketomorpha reactor, and that's fine. They both work. I think Jake brought up a good point that sometimes people neglect their refugium and it's not really doing what it was meant to be. Maybe they don't have enough light over it. Maybe they don't harvest the algae as frequently as they should, and then it becomes kind of a mess. I agree with him on that. The same could happen with an algal filter. If you don't remove the screen and harvest it, then you're going to get copepods and amphipods growing on the screen that will consume the algae and put the nutrients back in the water.
Então, assim, pessoal, são coisas diferentes, tá? A questão de ter um refúgio. O que é um refúgio? Refúgio é um local, é como se fosse um outro aquário que tu vai ter substrato, tu vai ter plantas, tu vai ter rochas lá dentro. É um outro ecossistema dentro do teu aquário que vai promover a criação de vários organismos, anfipódios, copépodes, e também, por causa da areia, das rochas, vai estar promovendo a denitrificação, a quebra do nitrato em nitrogênio. Já a questão das caetomorfas, dos reatores de macroalgas, da caulerpa, elas funcionam como uma esponja, elas absorvem o nitrato e o fosfato, elas são muito efetivas nisso, e depois simplesmente vai lá, colhe aquilo lá e joga fora. Só que elas são diferentes, elas não fazem as mesmas coisas e a gente não pode competir. Às vezes, tu só tem espaço para fazer um local para as macroalgas. Às vezes, tu quer ter um refúgio. Lá na palestra, nessa conversa do Jake Adams e do Julian, o Julian trouxe o ponto que muitas pessoas não fazem o refúgio como deveria ser. Ele não é grande o suficiente para promover uma absorção, um local consistente. E nesse ponto o Julian concorda com ele. Tu tens que seguir certos pontos para que isso seja efetivo. Na questão das macroalgas, né? Na questão das macroalgas, essa questão da exportação funciona bem, mas mais uma vez, são coisas diferentes. Julian, tu não tem problema com exportação de nitrato e fosfato com tudo isso de coral, né? Julian, I believe that you use no absorbents or have any problems with nitrates and phosphates with so many corals over there, right? With so many biomass.
No, it's fine. When you have so much coral, you need to add more food. It's if my fish population was bigger, phosphate becomes an issue. So I use the phospan in a reactor for that, but nitrate doesn't accumulate.
How much you keep your phosphate over there?
Yeah, about 0.02 is where I.
It's really risky.
Yeah,
I'm having this type of problem because anything, if I forget to feed one day, it's just go to zero and everything stops growing.
Yeah. Well, so you're using the algae, the ketomorpha.
That's right.
Right. So you have to feed more. That's it.
You still keep a skimmer over there?
What's that?
You still have an skimmer over there?
There's no protein skimmer on this tank. I would like to add one, but unfortunately the way the stand is designed, it's too low, and so there's not really room for a skimmer to be able to remove the cup. So it's a problem.
I have turned it off mine as well because I'm not being able to keep the phosphates. O Julian não tem skimmer naquele aquário lá e ele mantém 0,02. Então é uma questão que sempre tem que estar alimentando para ter não ter esse problema. Eu estava relatando para ele também que eu estou com o meu skimmer desligado no mudário porque simplesmente eu não consigo subir o fosfato. Uma pergunta ali sobre aquele imperador gigante que o Julian tem ali. Ele se preocupa com... O Leandro está preocupado com frog, tortoise e hammer. Eu vi que o Julian tem ali alguns LPS. É um problema, Julian, ou não? Julian, this question from Leandro. He has asked about your imperator. Does he nibbles the frogs, torts, and hammers, or how is over there? He's well behaved or not?
I don't. What is frog is a frog spawn coral.
Yes, frog spawn.
Okay. I don't have a torch. I only have a frog spawn over here.
Let's say Ophelius. How about the Ophelius? The imperator feeds on them, nibble on them, or not?
Can you see it? Let's see. Right there.
Okay.
Looks good, huh? There's algae on the glass. But if you notice, look where this coral is.
Uh-huh.
There's gorgonians around it.
Oh boy.
He can't really get to it.
Okay.
You see that?
And, I see that.
I've been thinking to move that Euphyllia here into this open space, but I'm afraid then he might eat it. I don't know. So far, he doesn't bother it.
Okay.
They've been together the entire time.
Então ele tem aquele hammer ali, mas o hammer tá num cantinho e ele tá embaixo das gorgônias, então o imperador não tem como chegar ali. O Julian tava querendo botar ele pro outro lado, mas ele tá com medo. E aquele, eu vi ali, acho que é uma caulácera, né? Acho que é um...
Yeah, and I have in my refugium aquarium here, I have frags from that Euphyllia. So it's been growing, and he's not bothering it.
Julian, I believe that I saw the trumpet coral over there, right? The Caulastria.
No,
no,
that's a elegance coral.
Okay, is there any other LPS? That,
no. I mean, yes, a Caulastria I do have. Yeah, I thought you were referring to this.
No, and he doesn't nibble that?
No, he doesn't nibble the... No,
então o imperador ali, o Julian tem ali uns trompetes e ele não pega também, então...
But he does eat zoanthids.
Mas ele come zoanthids.
There's no zoanthids. Look, the Caulastria is right... Where am I? Right up here. There. See Caulastria? Some...
Estão aí os trompetes dele. E o bom é que, bem, o zoanthus, se não fosse o imperador, o hepatos também iria comer, né? So if not the imperator eating the zoanthids, the hepatos would eat, né?
Yeah, that he will eat, and I'm sure that some LPS corals he would eat, like Cinerina or Lobophilia. Most likely, he would eat.
But it's a wonderful fish. It's a wonderful fish.
He talks a lot. Yeah. Very vocal.
Então, Julian, o que a gente pode esperar aí da Two Little Fishes? Quais os próximos produtos aí que vocês estão trabalhando? Julian, which are the future products for Two Little Fishes? What you guys have been working on?
Yeah. I'm always cautious to talk about what's not been known or what's not known. There are a few things on the drawing board. We've got one product we're about to introduce, so there's no secret for that. I'm sure you're familiar with the biopellets, right? Our NPX bioplastics. We are introducing an adapter that you can put in our reactor that makes the pellets spin.
Good.
It fluidizes them very well. So for both sizes of our reactors, for the 150 and the 550.
O biopellets, ele está lançando um produto agora, ele sempre é muito cauteloso em falar em produtos que estão vindo, mas ele vai estar falando, eles vão estar lançando logo agora um adaptador que entra no reator do Fosban e ele faz uma maior fluidização da mídia dentro do reator. Faz uma melhor fluidização.
Okay, another one that's coming out this year actually in just a few weeks, is a miniature reactor that we call little reactor. It's like the Phospan reactor 150, but it's really tiny. And that one can be used in nano aquariums. And although now with COVID-19, you don't have the frag swaps anymore. You know what a frag swap is?
Yes, I do.
I had been advised by some of the frag swappers that it would be really nice if you had a small reactor we could put carbon in and filter our little frag tanks. So that's coming. You can tell them.
Vai estar sendo uma versão menor do Fosban, uma coisinha pequenininha assim, que vai servir principalmente para aquários pequenos. O Julian relata que ele teve muitos pedidos, principalmente pessoas que fazem muita troca de corais, que tem um mudário pequeno e que gostariam de estar utilizando aí um reator menor para fazer a manutenção dos aquários. Ok? And how about chemicals? Anything more?
There are some foods coming. I won't elaborate, but there are some foods coming.
Okay.
And
all for this year, right?
Yes, for this year. Okay. And there's something that I've been showing at trade shows, and I've been working on it, trying to get all the pieces together because we'd like to introduce it all together. And it's these small aquariums that are what I call a display refugium. Okay, so the goal is that you have your reef aquarium display or your aquarium fish display, and then you can make a display for growing a mangrove that you don't put underneath the aquarium, you put next to the aquarium, and it's attractive. Okay, so what we were showing was a beautiful stand made of wood that looks like the roots of the mangrove tree, and then a shallow aquarium that sits on top of that. Sand in the bottom, which would be our sand, and the aquarium would come with the in-out, the X-Aqua in-out. Are you familiar with that? It's a device for draining the water. It's an overflow and return device. Okay, so this would be a small aquarium, say 60 centimeters by 60 centimeters by, maybe 15 centimeters in height. So square but shallow, with sand and a mangrove, a light, so you can actually make a display either by itself or you connect it to another aquarium. So that
those dimensions, I believe it's quite similar for the ones that Jake showed us in his video like 2 days ago, like two weeks ago, or maybe like that. So really shallow, but 60 by 60 centimeters, and it's going to be a whole solution. So it's going to be all in one package, right, Julian, that you're trying?
Right.
Então, outro produto que o Julian vai estar lançando agora vai ser um aquário completo aí, que vai ser baseado para fazer mangues, né? Vai ter a areia da marca deles, vai ter a rocha, e tu vai colocar o teu mangue ali em cima. Então vai ser uma solução completa, 60 por 60, com 60 de altura, mas vai ser uma camada baixa de água, e ela vai ter lá um overflow que vai jogar água para fora. Vai ser um display de refúgio, que é assim que o Julian chama. Em tudo isso vai estar lançado agora, esse ano ainda.
And obviously it could be used in salt water or fresh water. So it has a lot of application. The mangrove tree and the mangrove root stand, it gives it a very unique look. So we're still working on some of the components to have it all together. I don't know with COVID-19 whether we'll be able to get it all done in time for this year, but hopefully, if I can, it will happen.
Provavelmente vai ter agora, tem várias aplicações, você vai poder usar ele para água doce quanto para água salgada, porque essa é uma característica das risóforas aí dele, né, das plantinhas de mangue. Ele comentou que estão tentando trabalhar agora mas por causa do Covid eles não têm certeza se vai conseguir ou não. Mas vocês estão trabalhando normal aí na Flórida ou não, Julian? But over there in Florida, everything is normal, right? Normal now, or
not at all? It's crazy. I think in the news they said last week if Florida was a country instead of a state, we would be the fourth worst in the world with COVID. And especially here in Miami, it's bad, really bad.
I have saw that New York is improved a lot now,
yes.
But Florida is in a not so good situation. You guys in lockdown already? Or still back in lockdown or what?
No, they've closed restaurants again and gyms, exercise gyms, but people are still going to work in a lot of industries.
Lá eles estão funcionando, só estão com restaurantes e academias fechadas, mas o pessoal está indo tudo trabalhar. E na Flórida está meio feia a situação, porque eles já estão, se fosse um país, ia ser o quarto em número de mortes, então é bem complicado. Agora, a última pergunta, nós vamos estar falando sobre o Revive, né?
Yes.
Como que funciona, Julian? Porque, assim, o que eu tenho visto é que alguns medicamentos funcionam melhor do que outros para determinados animais, né? Algumas pessoas me relatam que tiveram não tão bons resultados assim, principalmente para algumas pestes, como por exemplo nudes, né? Os nude brancos aí que são comedores de zoantos. Existem quais animais específicos o Revive trata, quais pestes que ele tem como foco, tem resultados melhores? So, Julian, during these years, we found out that special drugs are more effective to specific types of parasites and hitchhikers. Like, for example, one solution quite popular here in Brazil is milbemycin for treating the white bugs and red bugs. So the guys just buy this flea medicine and we put in the water and it kills everything. Like KZ from Kolar and Zucht, the Coral RX are good for nudges, for zoantids eating nudges. And hydrogen peroxide is really good for algae, for pest algae. So which are the highlights for the Revive use? Which is most effective treating off and avoiding introduction pests and parasites to the water?
Okay, well, there are many parasites that you can use Revive to treat. Nudibranchs is one of them, but I think if you check closely, the ones that you mentioned are probably not going to be so effective against the eggs of the nudibranch. And that's the problem that everyone has with the nudibranchs, is that you can relatively easily kill or knock off the adult nudibranchs, but the eggs still hatch and then you get reinfestation. And unfortunately, that's true too with Revive. So if you can catch the nudibranchs early enough and dip with Revive, the nudibranchs will die. If they have not laid eggs, then you're done. It's finished.
A utilização dos nude brancos, né? A questão que todos esses que nós falamos também, né? O Julian está dizendo que eles vão ser efetivos com os nude brancos vivos. A questão dos ovos, todos eles têm muitos problemas. Isso está incluso o Revive. Ele funciona para o nude branco. Agora os ovos já vão ser muito mais difíceis.
Yeah. So yeah, the eggs are the issue. Revive is very good for the red bugs, for black bugs. You know, you need to make a bath 4 capfuls per gallon, which that's like
2.5 liters.
Yeah, right. 3.5 liters. So it's almost like 1 capful per liter, approximately. You can increase that dosage for short-term dosage up to double the strength. But I wouldn't recommend going more than that.
How about white bugs, the Euphilia white bugs? Would it be successful as well?
I'm not even aware of what you're talking about. A white bug on Euphilia?
Yes.
Is it a copepod?
It's also a copepod, and we treat it with merbumycin. Maybe you call it another name, but the ones that, if I remember, it's we call it white bugs.
And they are definitely, it's a crustacean, it's a copepod?
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
And
this will work. Revive will work on that.
O Julian está falando que essa questão também dos white bugs, dos red bugs, ele também vai ser tratado de forma efetiva pelo Revive. Tu utilizando a medida correta, que são as quatro tampinhas cheias por 3,5 litros, então mais ou menos uma tampinha por litro, isso vai ser o suficiente para matar esses copépodes, que são essas pestes aí.
For Euphilia, they're relatively thick-tissued corals. They can handle like about 10 minutes dip. And remember, the solution that you dip it in is salt water. You make the bath with water from the aquarium. And you don't put the bath back in the aquarium. You know, people, they may not understand.
Do people do that?
I don't know. You just have to explain, number one, that it's seawater from the aquarium that you use. You don't use tap water to dip the ball. And you stir it well. Yes, about one capful per liter. So that's about 15 milliliters of this per liter of a bath.
Tu vai fazer esse banho com água do aquário, né? E tu não vai, obviamente, jogar a água de volta para o aquário. Tem que deixar isso claro, que tu não deve utilizar água da torneira, tem que usar água salgada do teu aquário. Julian, e quanto tempo que o Revive... na verdade, eu vou fazer uma outra questão, tá? Existe um período de oxidação no Revive? Quantas vezes tu pode abrir ou não? A questão, existe alguma coisa que possa fazer ele perder a efetividade? Por exemplo, calor excessivo, um local que não foi tratado. Julian, let me bring this type of example. For example, water testing. When you are close for the end of the bottle, you have opened it many times, so there is oxidization from the reagent, and it affects the solution. Does Revive suffers oxidization because it's a big bottle and you use it many times? Can Revive lose its effective after the time or not?
It does lose its efficacy over time. That's why there's a date on the bottom of the bottle. The active ingredients are volatile. You know what volatile means?
Yes, I do know.
And they're so volatile that they actually pass through the plastic over time. Yeah. Now we use a special bottle that reduces that. Another type of material would let it pass through. So it is true that over time it loses strength. We make it concentrated, so it's good for more than a year, still effective. Opening the bottle, I don't, you shake it, it's properly mixed. It's not the opening of the bottle, it's actually just time.
Okay, so, but if it's volatile, the more times that you open a bottle, the more times the one that is saturated in there is going out, right?
It's going out anyway. It's going through the plastic and all. The opening of it is not really the issue.
Então, isso é uma questão principalmente para o meu amigo, o Marco Martins, né? Ele já tinha falado para mim algumas vezes que ele não viu uma efetividade tão grande, principalmente ele teve um caso sério com Red Bugs por causa que não teve um sucesso com a utilização do Revive. Eu estava falando com o Julian aqui e questionei se poderia perder efetividade. E o Julian disse, sim, é claro, tem uma data de validade. Essa data de validade está inclusive impressa lá. E um dos princípios ativos do Revive, ele são voláteis. eles são tão voláteis que eles chegam a passar pela parede do plástico. Então, isso tem que ser observado. O plástico já é um plástico especial, ele dura mais de um ano tranquilamente, mas uma hora ele vai perder efetividade. Então, eu acredito, Julian, que eu tenho que trocar o meu, então, porque o meu já tem mais de 4 anos. Então, eu acho que talvez eu já tenha perdido a efetividade dele. So, I believe, Julian, that I need to change my bottle because it's more than 4 years old already.
Oh, no, that's no good. Yeah, no, it will be good for more than 1 year, but 4 years is too much. Yeah.
Vai ser bom por mais de um ano, mas mais de 4 anos, que é o meu caso, não vai ser o suficiente. Porque é uma quantidade tão grande que a gente acaba não usando tanto, né, Julian? E, pois é, então eu vou fazer isso. It's a big quantity. At least for my usage, it's a big quantity, and I have started for so many times, so I need definitely to buy a new one.
Try it. I'm curious because you taught me something new. I'll have to look it up and see, but I had never heard of the white bug.
Let me do a quick Google over here.
Yeah, I'm sure if I do a Google, I'll find it. But now that you mention it, I have to get some and test it. But I'm sure that Revive would work because every copepod we've ever exposed to Revive, they die. It takes, some of them 2-3 minutes, some of them go as long as 10 minutes, but they die. So that should work fine. Red bugs also die, but the trouble is in an aquarium, they can be, all over the corals, and you have to remove every coral that has the red bugs to dip them and be sure to get rid of it in the aquarium. It's hard to do, but it's possible. You can do it.
Yeah, so the treatment that we use over here, that's you have heard about milbemycin, right?
Milbemycin, right? Yes.
Milbemycin. So
that's how we say it in English, right?
So that's something it's easier to use, but the thing is not to introduce them. So that's why we do the bath. So
correct.
And the nudges we have been talking to, and how about pest algae? Is it effective? Revive is effective on treating on them or not?
Not really, no. Yeah, I haven't tried all different types of algae to see what effect it has, but I know that dipping live rocks and whatnot with different algae, I haven't seen it have any effect.
Flatworms?
The flatworms, yes, it will kill flatworms. Whether the red flatworms that are common in aquariums, the Acropower eating flatworms, they dissolve. If you put Acropower eating flatworm or the red flatworm in a bath with Revive, you can film it, watch it. After, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 minutes, they just start to explode and dissolve.
The Acropower eating flatworms, it will dissolve.
Yes.
Então, Alain, presta atenção nisso que aconteceu.
But the eggs of the Acropower eating flatworm are not affected by Revive. They have a thick capsule that protects them. Damn it, right? And so as you can kill the adult flatworms, but you can't get the eggs, unfortunately.
Então a questão é que tu não consegue tirar os ovos, mas Alain, isso daí era uma das opções que tu estava com suspeita, né? E ele vai matar todas as planárias e as planárias que comem acróporas, as Acroporas eating flatworms.
So if you have them in a frag system and you can dip the frags and keep ahead of them so that they don't lay eggs, you can use Revive to eliminate the Acropower eating flatworm. But in an aquarium, especially a big aquarium, and they're laying eggs on the base of the Acropora and even on the stone, it's tricky.
Então, pessoal, cuidem disso, essa questão da validade do produto, tá? Eu não sei se esse foi o erro do Marco ou não também. O Marco depois pode estar relatando para nós. Isso é muito importante, a gente tem que observar a data de validade do produto, porque Nosso erro talvez...
Battery power. Go ahead.
Nosso erro talvez esteja por aí, tá? Mais uma vez, eu quero agradecer a todos aí pela presença da nossa audiência. Se vocês não são inscritos aí no nosso canal, se inscrevam. Se vocês gostaram do vídeo, deem um joinha aí. E nós vamos estar trazendo aí mais e mais convidados aí. Agora eu vou reduzir um pouco o volume, talvez uns 2 por mês. Mas vamos sempre estar trazendo aí novidades para vocês. Julian, cara, muito obrigado. É sempre um prazer enorme estar falando contigo. Eu me sinto muito feliz, me sinto honrado em estar sempre conversando toda vez que eu converso contigo. E muito obrigado. Eu quero fazer um agradecimento também. O Julian, ele está conseguindo, me colocou em contato aí com o Craig Bingman, me colocou em contato com o Martin Moe. Martin Moe já vai estar acontecendo. O Craig, nós devemos estar acontecendo agora nos próximos dias. E isso é muito importante. Então, essas próximas entrevistas aí que a gente vai estar vendo, boa parte delas vão acontecer aí graças a esse senhor aí que está nos ajudando. Julian, thank you very much, man. It's always a big pleasure and honor to be talking with you. It's already maybe the 4th or 5th time that we do a lecture like that. And thank you very much for putting me in contact with persons like Craig Bingman and Martin Moe. Randy Holmes and Sanjay is a few guys that I really would like to talk to. So if you could drop them a message.
Did I not give you Sanjay's contact?
Not Sanjay and not Randy.
Oh, I saved the best for last, right? No. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. I will tonight. I forgot to do it. I will do it.
Thank you very much. And so, guys, the next ones that we're going to see, like Martin, like Craig Bingman, and hopefully Sanjay, and hopefully Randy, it's also going to be a big thanks by Julian for putting them in contact with us. Julian, man, you're a great guy. It's for sure the best chats that I have. And thank you very much for taking your time and being here with us.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for doing the translation and for inviting me because, hey, it's a great opportunity through you to be able to connect with the hobbyists in Brazil. That's a great job you're doing. I'm thankful to you.
Thank you very much, Julian. Thank you very much. These words means a lot for me. Muito obrigado, pessoal, por estar aqui. É muito gratificante eu estar me conectando com as pessoas do Brasil através das tuas traduções, Edo. Muito obrigado pelo convite. Julian, thank you very much. Pessoal, muito obrigado. Todos aí, até o próximo episódio do seu Super Riff, hein?
Right. Okay. Great. So, yeah.